Hundreds of people have been detained at anti-corruption rallies in Moscow and St. Petersburg, an NGO says. Riot police in central Moscow were picking protesters out of the crowd at random, a BBC correspondent at the demonstration has said. Opposition leader Alexei Navalny was detained at his home ahead of the protests, according to his wife. Thousands of supporters have heeded his call to take to the streets of Moscow and other Russian cities. OVD-Info, an NGO, told Russian media that more than 400 had been detained at the Moscow protest. More than 300 people were detained at the rally in St. Petersburg, the Fontanka.ru news website reported. Riot police have mostly cleared protesters from Moscow's main street, Tverskaya, which runs up to the Kremlin, but not yet from Pushkin Square, says the BBC's Sarah Rainsford. Many of those detained were young people, apparently teenagers, our correspondent at the scene says. The crowd was shouting "Russia without Putin," and "Down with the Tsar," says the BBC's Steve Rosenberg, who is also reporting from the demonstration in Moscow. Alexei Navalny has been arrested in the entrance to our block of flats, Yulia Navalnaya wrote on Twitter, ahead of the demonstration. Mr. Navalny, who intends to stand for the Russian presidency next year, had been due to attend the unauthorized rally in central Moscow. In a live broadcast by the Russian liberal TV channel, DOZD, protesters in St. Petersburg could be heard shouting shame as they were detained by police. Among those arrested was Maxim Reznik, the city's legislative assembly deputy. Prominent activist Daniel Kin said he was arrested as he left his home in St. Petersburg. He urged people to join the rally at the city's Champ de Mars Square. "Go for me, please," he tweeted. He has since been released. Police had earlier detained several people at demonstrations in the cities of Vladivostok, Blagoveshchensk, and Kazan. At the scene, by Sarah Rainsford, central Moscow. It is a national holiday in Russia, so Tverskaya Street was already filled with families when protesters began to turn up. Thousands poured into central Moscow, mingling with those people who had been taking part in the festivities for Russia Day. A lot of the protesters were deliberately wrapped in the Russia flag. They say they are here as Russians and as patriots, but also as people who are unhappy with the authorities. The police have been making loudspeaker announcements every few seconds saying that this is an illegal protest and people should disperse, but there is still a huge crowd of people in central Moscow. Mr. Navalny was earlier granted permission to hold a rally at Sakova Avenue but changed the location, without permission, on the eve of the demonstration to Tverskaya Street, near the Kremlin. One of the groups participating in the Moscow rally, which is over government plans to demolish Soviet-era apartment blocks in the city, said it would hold its protest on Sakova Avenue as planned. Permission was granted for demonstrations in 169 locations across the country, some of which are being broadcast live on the Navalny Live YouTube channel. The protests coincide with a series of official events, including festivals, concerts and military enactments, due to take place across the country to mark Russia Day, the national holiday dedicated to the 1990 Declaration of Sovereignty. Similar rallies led by Mr. Navalny in March led to hundreds of arrests. Those protests were the largest since 2012, drawing thousands of people, including many teenagers, to rallies nationwide, angered by a report published by Mr. Navalny that accused Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev of corruption.